And here we are. Um, People are not going to realize this because of the order that this is coming out, but I've taken a little bit of a break from the show the last couple of months. I came back from vacation to a lot of issues that I needed to try to resolve. And Derek and I connected a couple of weeks ago, and I actually have another episode that's in the can that'll come out before this one that I've been holding on to with Ryan Taylor. And yeah, it just like having somebody say, "Hey, I would like to do your podcast," made me think, okay, I need to get back into it. I need to
Yeah.
stick everything else aside and make this happen. So I'm here with Derek Stern. I think we connected on Threads.
We did. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you come to this point in your career relative to because your handle is Body Coach Derek, so I'm assuming that you're coaching some people about their bodies.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting because uh, I have always been into fitness my entire life. I started getting meal plans and fitness routines for my friends when we were younger. And I was kind of doing it for free. I didn't have any certification or anything like that. So,
Uh-huh.
um, and I decided as I got older and kind of doing I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur, if you will. I've consistently opened up businesses, some brick and mortar stores, some online stores,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of a grind. I enjoy it. I enjoy opening up businesses because I always explain to people it's kind of like fishing. You throw out a line and then you kind of get a nibble and you just it's a rush. But as I got older, I thought, you know, and by the way, I'm in shape now. I feel I'm in shape at least. Some people on Threads might disagree. Uh, imagine that, right? But I was not always. I actually fell into a rut when I was about 20 years ago. I just a compilation of back starts going out a little bit, which a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people encounter back issues, knee issues, shoulder issues, things like that, and it could easily become your grave. It's basically one of these things where you just kind of resign to being hurt all the time and it's easy just to go, I'm never going to be that way again, and then people start fantasizing about what they look like when they were in their 20s and things like that. Oh, I was an athlete, or but you know it's never too late to get back into fitness. There are some people that I've trained that have had some pretty serious injuries. One
Mm-hmm.
in person in particular, there was a 70 or something year old woman, and she came into the gym. I was working at a commercial gym at the time, and she kind of hobbled in, and she could barely walk. She kind of shuffled, and one of her shoulders, she said, was frozen, and she had a big scar in it from a prior surgery. Within 6 months, not only was this woman, now remember she's in her 70s, I had her doing plyometrics, which is box jumping. So she was actually jumping onto a box and back off. It was only a 3-inch box, but nevertheless, she was doing box jumping. And um, she also was shoulder pressing over her head. So we got that shoulder going as well. So long story short, in terms of that, is that it's really never too late for people, and movement is life. You start moving your body a little bit and it'll get better. Sometimes uh it feels like, oh, it just hurts when you move your body. You and your doctor know best about what's best for your body, but at the same time, there are lots of people that aren't giving their bodies enough credit,
Yeah.
and they just kind of resign to their. I remember a gentleman. His name was Brett. He'll never watch this. I don't even know if he doesn't know what I'm doing anymore. But he was one of my tenants when I was a landlord, and he hurt his hand in a machine and had a big scar across his hand. Collected disability the rest of his life. Went into drinking, did drugs, just couldn't get over the fact that all he talked about was that he was disabled because he had this one hand that, by the way, was still attached and he could move it, just probably not to his liking.
Uh,
But he completely resigned to just being this disabled guy rather than trying to better himself in life. So, um, to loop back of what we were talking about when you asked how I got into this, I was also in a flight for life accident. I was actually almost dead. I was
Jeez.
had the helicopter ride and everything, and broke numerous bones, and including I cracked my skull. I was down and out for a while, and after I recovered from that through exercise, I got into a bad relationship and uh, ballooned up. I was a lot heavier and drinking, drugs, the whole story. It's something that probably half the people in America could say that they've hit rock bottom at one time or another. And I just was tired of saying, "Oh yeah, I used to be in shape," or "I used to uh, feel better," or whatever. And I'm like, I have so much life left to live, so many years. So
Mhm.
it was just important to get back in there and one step at a time, one bite at a time of good food rather than that frozen pizza. And lo and behold, a couple of years into it, and I felt like I was really starting to emerge as a better version of myself. So
I can identify with that just as somebody that, like, I don't, you may not be familiar with this at all, but I actually started powerlifting when I was over 40, which is not something I usually would suggest that anybody do because it's difficult.
it's amazing. Bravo.
And of course, by that point, I was more prone to injury than I would have been had I done it even 10 years earlier. And that's kind of ultimately what ended. And I was really about 7-8 years of really competing pretty frequently.
But you competed even? That's
Oh yeah,
amazing.
I even competed.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, and this was the geared era of powerlifting. So I was you know lifting in equipment, which is very out of favor right now, and I don't know if it'll ever be in favor again. Honestly, it's a different animal. It's not at all what's being done now. With raw lifting and just knee sleeves. But yeah, eventually the injuries started affecting my life outside of lifting. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. This doesn't make any sense to me. And then, coming up on 6 years ago now, we started renovating this building into Third Street Barbell, and I found that I was working my ass off on the building, but I was just getting kind of more tired and a lot more sore than I ever remember being doing
Hmm.
anything before.
Hmm.
And it took me a couple of years to figure out what the issue might be, and that I actually have a thyroid autoimmune thyroid thing, which apparently can just cause that sort of deep achy pain in your joints and stuff, and it has all kinds of different effects. And so um like thing one was trying to get that under control, taking medication for that, and even then I didn't like feel energized to jump in, and I owned a gym, but I was kind of barely working out in it very often. And it's actually taken until this last year for me to really get back into it. And I had other injuries that came up over time, and like stage one of being back in the gym, excuse me, with regularity, was addressing those injuries, like getting physical
Hmm.
therapy, and like running down like what's actually wrong. And
Yeah.
but if I had waited until those things were fixed, I'd probably still be waiting to get back into it. And there's a common saying, "Motion is the lotion." It kind of it breaks down the friction of your body moving through life. And that's definitely been the case. I still deal with stuff. I have a hip that pisses me off. I have a knee that pisses me off. A shoulder that pisses me off, or I piss
Sure.
them off. Something like that. Doing it is so much better than not doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To continue to move, mind you, and by the way, again, kudos to you for lifting heavy uh, while going through a thyroid condition that you weren't even aware of. It just
Yeah.
shows your determination and your fortitude to do that. I think it's amazing. It did bring up an interesting point when you said that. I tell clients all the time. I use actually when I worked at a commercial job, I also started being trained on teaching youth weightlifting, just kind of introducing people into the gym and gym climate and just kind of the do's and don'ts of it and the etiquette of it, if you will, proper form, etc. And one of the things I always told them, I said, this is always important. Don't ever make fun of anybody that's in here. For lots of reasons. We don't body shame, and one of the things is that you have no idea what they're going through.
Right. For
And
sure.
I pretended to point at people in the gym. There was no one in there, but I said, her, the woman over in the corner there just found out that she has breast cancer. This person over here, just this gentleman over here, just went through a divorce. This person just lost his child. Blah 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 blah. There's just so many people that are just trying to work something through something when they go in there, and I think that's really important to always remember that. Uh, Despite what the magazines show you, where everyone's just happy when they're doing tricep push downs. A lot of people have thought that they always say the heaviest weight is the front door of that gym, right? So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. That's something I'm kind of proud about in the environment that we have at our gym, where people are very supportive, and it's a very good community, and there isn't
Hmm.
like a lot of judgment about how heavy somebody's lifting, or what their body weight is, or any of that sort of thing.
Right.
There's just not that level of, I don't know, pettiness is kind of
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about. It's just like it's when anytime you're publicly criticizing somebody else in a really trivial way, you're trying to elevate yourself and make yourself feel better about yourself,
Right.
and really doesn't have that much to do with the other person. It's just an opportunity to punch down, I guess.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, without going too much into the psychology of it, they're usually pretty miserable themselves, right?
Yeah.
And as we've seen online, a lot of people that are openly attacking other people are wildly. I mean, they're not just inappropriate; they're wildly projecting. You
Yeah.
know, so that's something we see consistently.
The phrase miserable asshole is very descriptive, because not are they miserable to deal with, they're
Yeah,
miserable on the inside
they
often.
certainly are. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the energy that goes into that, especially online. But I mean, that's actually a thing about Threads, is that, like, the way the algorithm is set up, you get fed a lot of people with somewhat similar interests,
Hmm.
and even if you don't, even if you're not following them, you see their stuff, if you know,
Hmm.
and often people will make pronouncements about something going on in their life or whatever, and you don't know them, whatever, but it doesn't cost you anything to like their post.
Right.
Where,
Right.
and it's more supportive than most social media platforms.
Absolutely. Hey, Jim, I came from Twitter. I think I just posted this a couple days ago. I said, you guys can't hurt me here. I came from Twitter.
I
Like
saw that.
so. Yeah, yeah. I had 45,000 followers and uh, had a lot more until I not to get too political, but well, I mean, aren't we all? but I said before the last election, I said, guys, I've donated to her twice. I'm going to vote for her, but Kamala's not going to win this thing, you
Yeah.
know. And I lost a lot of followers. And you know, my where I cited it, and of course I got called every name in the book, and mass, you know, thousands of people unfollowed me, blah blah blah. But what I cited was facts, is that she couldn't win in 2020 when she ran for the presidential nomination,
Yeah.
you know. And but as we all know, sometimes social media, people don't need facts. They just go, you know, they talk according to their opinion, and they think that opinions are facts, and they're not. Um, and so anything that's based in reality, sometimes people just, you know, they. The other thing too, especially with MAGA or the other side, if you will, they don't want to ever be pronounced wrong. You know, I think a lot of people voted for this presidential election just to prove the other side wrong, even though we all seen how the leopards eaten their face in a lot of circumstances. You know,
Correct.
they've
Yeah.
lost their benefits, they've been, you know, had a spouse or themselves taken away by ICE or whatever. So yeah, it's been quite an experience. So.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, they're both sides have their. I don't like to both sides things very often, but both sides have their quirks because you
Hmm.
know the left tends to lean into that sort of like intellectual purity
Yes, yes,
where
the
you know,
purity test.
yeah,
Hmm.
that is it's a turnoff. It's a bothersome thing. It's
It
like
is.
you
It
know,
is.
it's like
Jim, my biggest fights that I've ever had online, even I had a 7 month suspension from Twitter once. It was a permanent
goodness.
suspension. Yeah. But Elon Musk, when he came there, he released everybody from Twitter jail. But I got suspended not from MAGA, uh, but from actual other blue accounts
Yeah.
uh, reporting me. I'd get in the biggest fights ever with them because of exactly what you're talking about, just these purity tests, and everyone's got to be just right, you know, instead of just going for a winner. And you know, the demise, why they always say, why can't Democrats win? It's because all they care about is they want to vote with their heart and not their head, you know. Like, I think Kamala would have been an amazing president, not just better than Trump. Anyone's better than Trump, but I think she would have been an amazing president. Uh, but I just knew she couldn't win. You know, Hillary couldn't win, and Hillary would have been an amazing president. We're just too sexist. We have this patriarchy in the U.S. that refuses to allow women to rule. Most of the veterans, I can't remember what the percentage was, but it was a large percentage, did not vote for Kamala because they will not take orders from a man or a woman, excuse me.
Yeah.
The One of the other large demographics was the black men. They did not want to take orders from a black woman. So those two very large pieces of the pie were our demise, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I think that part of the problem too for both of them was that if they had been if they had both been male candidates, they I think they probably still would have faced headwinds for sure. And not in terms of experience, but just in terms of being like a great candidate, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And some people are just really good at campaigning and others are really not. And
yeah. Well, Kamala ran a brilliant campaign. I mean, I thought her campaign was flawless. Like, she didn't make any gaffes or issues, or she did a fantastic, amazing job at the at the debate. She went to all the, you know, she was on podcasts and blah blah blah. Yeah, she didn't go on Joe Rogan or whatever. I don't know if that would have swayed any of these people. Um, but because she was on enough other podcasts that they could have found out what her positions were. Um, but it just, unfortunately, we're just not progressive enough in this country to have a woman in power. And I hope that changes in my lifetime. I don't know.
Well, I think that we're in a period of time where there aren't that many really great candidates or campaigners on either side. It's like we're not getting politics is not sending their best, if you know what I mean.
I agree with you. I
And
agree with
and some of the best minds are just not great candidates, or they don't want to do it, which is
Right.
reasonable as well, because like who really wants to be president of the United States? No job in the world will age you faster than being president
Right.
of the United States.
Right. Right. I to this day, I have no idea why anyone would want to do it. You know, just to be under the public scrutiny 24/7. It wouldn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Then shift over to Congress, where we need to have like term
Term
limits
limits.
or age limits or something like that, because
Both.
yeah, like we have here in our area, we have Doris Matsui, who's been a representative for 20 plus years. She took over from her husband, who passed away, who had been a representative for nearly 30 years. She's seldom had any actual opposition, I guess, in any election from really either side,
Mhm.
either primaries or general. And she's 81.
Wow.
I have all the respect in the world for somebody who is 81 and they're on their game or whatever, but I'm not sure that politics is the place for those people. You know, I'm like it's time to have stepped away from the day to day and, you know, provide your insight to the next generations. By
Yeah.
81, you're talking about generations of
Yeah.
political minds. Like I
Well, remember,
why?
right. Listen, our mental acuity ages just with our as well as our bodies, right?
Tell me
I
about
mean,
it.
yeah, yeah. When I see people, I don't think that's ageism. People say, "Oh, it's ageism." Listen, people, a lot of these mental diseases, such as dementia and things like that, happen later in life,
Mhm.
predominantly, when the brain starts getting, I don't know, drier, and it starts drying out and being damaged over the years and things like that. It's just unfortunately, our blood supply starts slowing down as we age and things like that. There's just a bunch of different things that happen to our bodies that don't allow our minds to be at our top of our game, to the point that my grandmother, before she passed, was brilliant all the way to the end, super sharp and crisp, and remembered things from decades earlier, would talk about things on her deathbed. However, because that is such an anomaly, people talk about that and say, wow, she was sharp all the way to the end. The
Yeah.
reason why we're having that discussion is because predominantly people are not as they get older, So they start putting the keys in the fridge and forgetting to do this or that. So it's time we start talking about term limits and age appropriateness for these types of positions. Absolutely.
My mother-in-law is about to turn 87 and she is sharp as a tack.
Hmm.
However, even she says it's too old. It's too
Yeah.
old. I don't want to do that anymore. She's been involved in League of Women Voters the last 5 or 6 years and has sort of slowly wound down her efforts with them because she doesn't have as much energy for it, or it's like, you're only going to live so long. What do you want to spend your time doing?
Right.
At,
Right.
at some point it's like, well, I don't enjoy this the way I did before, or it's more complicated than it was before, or whatever reason, and it's time to do something else, and it's time to
Absolutely.
do something that doesn't
Absolutely.
have stakes and that you can just enjoy. I,
Right.
I completely get that. And I don't understand why we have politicians who just can't walk away. They can't figure, they don't want to give up the power. I don't know.
Mhm.
I guess maybe that's it, but I don't understand
You
exactly.
want to hear a truth that people do not like to hear? Ruth Bader Ginsburg put us
Oh,
in
I
a
know.
really
Yeah.
bad position. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know exactly what you're going to say. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally agree.
Even Obama asked her to step down so he can nominate someone different, during his
Yeah.
term, and she refused. She wanted to hold on to power, and she was slipping away, and then of course, Mitch McConnell was like, "Oh, it's too late now. It's the
Yeah.
election year," even though they nominated and approved Amy Coney Barrett 8 days before the election.
Yeah.
So
15 minutes before the election, 15
yeah,
minutes before the polls.
literally.
Yeah, no, that's true. It was a political trap for sure. But like, why couldn't she see that? Well, because like her ego and her age would
Yep,
not let her see it.
yep.
That's really what it comes down to. It's like, it's,
100%.
they
Hmm.
talk about when you look at like Greek myths and stuff, they talk about the hubris of humans.
Hmm.
Like, that's just gigantic hubris to think that you're just going to live long enough that it's not going to matter.
Right.
You know?
And and I hate to even say that they were brilliant or anything like that because most of them were slaveholders, but the founding fathers, if you will, the people that put the Constitution together, um, they uh, didn't put these term limits, these age limits in because back then people were living to the ripe old age of like 47. Like I mean,
Yeah.
it's no big deal, right? And then they
And we're
would
both
die from
older.
scarlet fever or chronic halitosis or whatever they were succumbing
Yeah.
to that we could easily cure now. So
Yeah. And we're both older than that. So that's
yeah, yeah, yeah. And by the way, I was making a joke about the chronic halitosis, but did you know that one of the leading causes of heart disease is poor maintenance of your mouth?
yeah, yeah, it's the bacteria
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
harbored in your mouth that ends up in your heart valves.
Right, right. Yeah.
And yeah. Yeah, that's a bad deal. That's the best reason to stay on top of
Hygiene, absolutely.
dental hygiene. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There
Speaking
there
of, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
there are things about dentistry that are more myth than reality, but like actually not having infections in your gums is really a thing that you should be striving
Mhm.
for on a daily basis.
Absolutely. What I was going to say was this kind of with the gym. It's something I talk about a lot with people. Is that one of the when I tell people about because I do occasionally teach newbies, which are those people that just have never stepped to the gym. They're terrified, and they don't need to be. It's a very friendly place. Most people will try to help you. Um, there's always a bad apple in the gym, but besides that, I think especially you as a gym owner, I think that it's really kind of a community, right? um, but one of the things that I always tell people is that besides hey, don't wear slides or Crocs or anything like that, wear good shoes and bring water and drink lots of water between reps and blah blah blah, is uh, practice hygiene. Just because you're going to go there and sweat, doesn't mean that you should offend everybody. If you have the opportunity to be clean and wear deodorant and brush your teeth before you go, that's not only just good health, that's proper etiquette and it's kind to other people. Because I've been in the gym numerous times where I I will literally have to go to another section because of someone being, maybe they didn't brush their teeth or they look like they roll out of bed and they're just really really pungent, something like that. So yeah.
I would say the solution to that is just to charge more for membership because like we're for sure the most at different levels of access. We're the most
I love
expensive
that.
powerlifting ish gym in our area, and we
Uh-huh.
don't typically have any of those problems. Thank
That's
God.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we don't have very much trouble with people not putting weights away. We don't have any really messy people for the most part. I mean, stuff happens. People like get distracted and get distracted because they're actually like communicating with each other and like you know having the third place kind of experience. That's why My Third Street Barbell is spelled third instead of 3RD.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, on the topic of politics and weightlifting, over to you because you saw if there were bumper plates or not. Did Pete Hegseth actually bench press 315 pounds? Did he?
I don't believe so. I can't prove it. I've seen fake plates. I mean, there was a video back in the day, in the super training days, that used fake plates. It
Mhm.
was not a weightlifting demonstration. It was part of another video. It was an example. It wasn't, it wasn't there was no ill intent. It was just so because something had to be repeated a bunch of times,
Mhm.
and you just can't have people,
Lift, doing a certain movement 100 times in a
100.
row.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of know what a regular weight plate that's fake looks like. I don't know what a fake bumper looks like. Those are bumper plates.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe every once in a while you come across somebody who looks like a pile of dirt who can bench press,
Right. Right.
or in the same way that it's actually more common with deadlifts. You can find people who can deadlift like motherfuckers who don't look like anything at all.
Right. Right.
And and they don't, I mean, a typical deadlift is about 125% of their squat, and they're just far outstripping that for some reason.
Yeah.
They can't squat for shit, but they pull great.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. I'd love to know what the physics are behind that. Like, what muscle groups and I mean we I know what muscle groups pull, but what on these people that look very ordinary. There's that gentleman. I think it starts with a V. His name starts with a V, but he's on numerous Facebook and YouTube videos of him pretending to be dressed like a janitor, and he'll go in
Yeah,
with a
I've seen that
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. And he's a world class power lifter, but he's very small, and that's why he fools everybody because they'll have to come in. They'll be like, how did they? Their jaws will just drop. But he's just a freak, and I would just love to know the physics of his body of how he's able to do that. To lift so much. So
Yeah, that's a good question. But to give you a general answer, I think that this administration's kind of made for television
yeah, yes.
and social media. And I know, having dealt a little bit in the reality TV world, that reality is a stretch a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I am likely to believe that it was not 350.
Yeah, yeah. I think the him being surrounded by a bunch of people to kind of give it that look that they were really looking at this feat of man, and and also something else that I noticed was just looking at the weight pressing into his hands.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of really strong gut people in the gym, as have I as well, and I've seen 315 pounds being benched before, very well by a lot of people. But even the strongest ones, the bar really presses into your palm of your hand.
Mhm.
And it just the as small as Pete Hegseth is, and as how bad of form he does for virtually anything in the gym, whether it's a kettlebell swing or a pull up. I just don't see that. You're right. I just don't see that this guy easily repped a 315 pounds. It just doesn't make sense.
No, like you would see it, sink into his hands.
Hmm.
You would see a little bit of extra effort at the transition point of
Hmm.
the lift.
Hmm.
You would have seen more movement from the uprights when it was racked, because it wasn't unloaded as it was racked. Like, so the spotter didn't take the load and then place it in the uprights, in the J
Right.
hooks.
Right.
So tend not to believe. Tend not to
Yeah.
believe.
I'm with you on that one. Good.
I, I,
glad
people
we cleared that up.
people shock me. people shock me sometimes. People walk in and can do stuff that some people have just like circus lifts, man. They can just do stuff that nobody else can do, and that's a triumph of their genetics or some job, the physical job they had that
Right.
prepared them in ways they didn't realize, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to get back to training for a second, it's like you working with people online and in person, or just
Yes, I train people. I'm considered a hybrid. They call it a hybrid trainer, where I will train people in person. Some are strictly online. I've had a couple of clients from the other parts of the world. I have one in the UK, one in New Zealand, and some across the United States. I have some that are in on the East Coast, even though I'm on the West Coast. That I train online. So yes, I absolutely do. I enjoy it. I help them reach their goals. It's a great journey. And people sometimes ask, well, is that as good as in person? It just depends on the person. You know, I can't say it's better or worse. I've been able to help clients achieve their results that they're and the goals that they're looking for in both circumstances. The online is nice because they could go whenever they want. They don't have to wait for me, or I have to wait for them, or we have to decide on a gym time or place or whatever. They could just go whenever they want, and my app that I have them sign up for has videos of each workout that I subscribe to them, and they could see someone operating in perfect form in a video if they just click on it, and they could just mimic that movement. And one thing I always tell people is, and I don't coach a lot of powerlifting. Okay.
Mhm.
But I do have two clients that have powerlifted in the past. Um, but what I always emphasize is a lighter weight and really concentrating on form. You know, because as we age, of course. So what you were talking about before, where sometimes you can't catch a break with injuries and things like that. Those injuries come when we're straining our absolute hardest, and a lot of times. And ever since I cut my weight in half, my physique has improved, because that's really what I'm looking for, is number one, health and longevity of life. And two, I want to look better, feel better about myself. A huge side effect of physical fitness, of course, is confidence.
Mhm.
And it's nice to be able to feel comfortable in my own skin, and actually fit in my clothes for once and things like that. Um, you know,
I feel that I actually had to get rid of all of my pants. I lost like I've lost a little over 30 pounds at this
oh,
point.
that's
Like
amazing.
nothing fit anymore. So
It's a good problem to have, my friend.
it's a good problem to have. Yes, I sort of that was part of the mental calculus. Like somewhere along the line, I'm going to be spending money on clothes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what was I going to say? And you have like a broad range of ages of people that you're dealing with.
Yes. There's I if I train somebody that is under the age of 18 in person, I always ask that the parent comes along
Yeah,
and sits in there. Otherwise, anyone that is online, and again, I actually online, I don't train anyone under 18.
yeah, I wouldn't either.
Especially there's some things that that on my app that uh, clients are able to do, such as upload before and after pictures and things like that. And I don't want people under the age of 18 to be focused on their weight.
Yeah,
It's never a good thing. Doctors won't even diagnose people under the age of 18 with certain mental illnesses, such as bipolar disorder. They won't typically uh, give someone a diagnosis of that under the age of 18. So with that same thought process, um, I don't want to talk about uh, what people under the age of 18 should be, focusing on their bodies and things like that. I just want them to live and have a good life and happy life. I will tell them, just as I did when I was trained in youth fitness, that, because I'm also a nutritionist as well. Um, Tell them that you can still eat those junk foods that you like, but everything in moderation. I don't want anybody, regardless of their age, to ever have a hate relationship with food, or their body or me. You know,
Yeah.
as a trader, we get the accolades when we help somebody uh, achieve their goals.
Hmm.
With that same breath, they could criticize us and hate us, if they're not getting there. A matter of fact, I saw in one of those. I'd never watched these. It was an excerpt on online, but there was a like a Judge Judy type show, and a woman took her personal trainer to court and sued him because she didn't see her abs. And that was, yeah, true story. It got dismissed, as you could probably imagine. And the woman was beautiful. She was very physically gifted, and she had a great physique, and she was a stunner in her looks. And the judge is like, she brought pictures of her in a bathing suit, and she's like, "See, I don't have abs there." And there was a lot of groans in that courtroom because, for obvious reason, when this beautiful woman is not or saying that she has body dysmorphia and that someone should be financially liable for it, so,
I'd like
so
to make somebody financially liable for my body dysmorphia. That'd be really helpful. I
maybe
would have,
Little Debbie, right? I'm gonna sue Little Debbie.
yeah, I would have much less to worry about if that was the case. Uh, we touched on this just a little bit before we started rolling here, about the subject of men's mental health, and something I've been
Hmm.
interested in for a long time. And
Yeah.
I came from a family where my dad thought that that any kind of therapy like that was like a totally unnecessary, just kind of wrong and invasive thing. And it took me a while to get out of that mindset. And was honestly, my younger sister is afflicted with the same thing, and along with a lot of other things, and just like she's in a terrible place because she never dealt with her demons.
Hmm.
She let them run rampage over her person. um and and I mean, personally, I came to a point where, and I people who listen to this regularly know that I'm going to say, but my therapist is like, I don't know, like we're having great conversations, it's fun, and we were like, we were about the same age, and so it got down to like sharing about life between a couple guys in there at the time, late 50s. But he's like, I don't think I'm doing any good for you anymore. I think you actually sort of have all the tools at this point. But it took a while to get to 5 years to get there, and some people don't don't get there on their own, and they need to go back, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I know that we put off recording this because you were not feeling your best,
Hmm.
when it first when
Hmm.
we were first scheduled. Sort of give me a little bit of insight on that. Give everybody
You,
a little
you're
insight.
being so kind about your words and very thoughtful about your words. I was in a shit place, and I was, one of the things that first of all, two parts of this here. Men's mental health isn't talked about enough. It's when men do talk about it, we're emasculated, or we have to just man up, or we're losing our man card. If we
Mhm.
blah blah blah. But it's so embedded in our society that it's a taboo subject, that there are no clinics to this day that I have ever seen that specifically target men's mental health. There are for women, but not for men. you know, and women, I'm glad that they have the outlet to cry publicly, or or be show their emotions without being chastised for them. And and of course, all the way back in those old movies where the woman in distress, would have her hand up to her head and the man would run to help her. uh, Men don't get that same help. And again, with not just opinions, with facts, almost 80% of the suicides that happen in the world are men. you know and I think that speaks volumes. And I have depression. It's something that I don't know if I was born with it, but I know that two out of my three sisters also have it. So I would like to think that it's, there's, I mean, we had a little bit of a rough childhood, but overall, um, uh, depression itself is such an interesting dark passenger, because you'll be driving along and the sun's out and your favorite song's on it and you're just jamming out and you're having a great day, and all of a sudden this voice will just go like, yeah, but what's gonna fuck it up, you know and you just get, and then you just kind of like your smile just kind of turns and you're just kind of sad and you're sitting there like, I know something's going to happen. And then you start thinking about outlets of who or what is going to mess this up for you. And you can't even have a day, um so um it is just recently, I was deciding on career paths. And I used to have, in the Midwest, some very uh fruitful businesses that that did very well. And when I moved to the West Coast, I started over. Um, I moved here for my ex, and we ended up not working out after we moved here. So I just stayed out here because I love it here. Plus, once I shuttered all those businesses in the Midwest, they're done. So you can't just reopen and say, "Just kidding,"
Right.
So, um, it's been interesting starting over. I'm going to be 53 in May. This is usually when people start thinking about retirement, and I'm thinking about starting over. So that really hit me really hard. Not having certainty in relationships and finances and all that good stuff all started compiling and became an incredibly heavy weight hanging around my neck every day. And I felt very alone. My friends and family were back in the Midwest, where I left them. And so I felt very disconnected. Here, I love it here. It's a great vibe. The West
Mm.
Coast is amazing. But loneliness takes on a lot of forms, right? I mean, we could be lonely in a room full of people. Um, and What especially hit me is that I started out as a general contractor when I got here, and the area that I was working is a retirement community. What that means is most of the houses that I was working on were vacant. Besides, when I'd go into Home Depot or some other hardware store to grab supplies,
Mm.
there'd be a couple weeks at a time where I would not see anybody.
Ooh,
I mean, yeah, yeah,
that's a little isolating. Yeah.
or at least talk to people. It's not like I wouldn't see them like with people passing in the car, but actually have meaningful conversations. Besides, yes, this is all I'm getting for today. Thank you. Oh, credit card I'm going to use today. Besides that, I wasn't having any type of meaningful conversation. Um, so I'm still uh, working on that. Just trying to. That's why I unabashedly and shamelessly saw that you had a podcast, and I said, "Hey, I would love to be on there just to have a connection with somebody." And I like your stuff anyway, and I like you, so I'd
Well,
rather do that than anyone else. So, um, but So in that couple weeks, it was I had all these uncertainties going on,
Mm.
finances, work, and let's face it, here's the other issue is that historically men are defined by their jobs. You know, we are. We're. I'm sure everyone's heard of or seen that movie where it says a dog's purpose or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of our men are kind of like dogs in that regards. Like we have to feel like we're useful. You
Hmm.
know, if we don't feel like we're useful, we kind of atrophy, and our minds, even sometimes our bodies atrophy from just not having a purpose. And I really didn't know what I was supposed to do. And that's where, and I knew that I wasn't in a good headspace. And here's the thing, I made a post about it because I feel very, um, I want other people to recognize that it's okay to talk about it. Matter of fact, I had a lot of people in my private messages saying, "Thank you for this. I'm going through this. I, I don't know if it's misery loves company, but they, in regards to them seeing somebody else kind of suffering, it made them feel a little bit better knowing that they're not the only one in the world that's going through a similar situation. But I know when I'm going through a period of time like that. This one was the worst that I've ever gone through. Um, I'm not suicidal in terms of I'm going to take action on it. I just don't want to wake up in the morning, and there's the difference. I don't want to exist, and that is um, it wreaks havoc on you because when you wake up in the morning, you're just disappointed. You know, you know. So that's where I was for a couple weeks, and it just like any disease or illness, it comes in waves. It doesn't just stick with you the whole time. It kind of
Right.
flares up and then goes away. So I had this wave of that depression, and then it's starting to wane and go away, and it's one day at a time. People ask, how you doing? I'm like, hey, I'm all right. And that's about as truthful as I could be. So thank you for asking about that. And I always recommend therapy for people. I just started going to a therapist for the first time in my life, and I'm like, where has this been my whole life?
Yeah.
Um, but also, if they can't afford a therapist, because who can in this economy, right? They're always welcome to reach out and touch base with me if they see me online. They're more than welcome to. I've had lots and lots of conversations. One of my dear friends, I won't say her name because she's active with me online, but she thanks me because she said I'm literally the reason that she's alive. And that is so profound to me. I can't believe that I'm responsible for that. But she had bought a bunch of heroin, and she was just going to end her life with heroin,
Mm.
and then I reached out because I noticed that her posts were not her normal self, and I reached out to her in her DMs, and we talked about it for days, and she credits me with sticking around, and if nothing else, if I accomplish nothing else in life, I'm pretty fucking proud of that, So um, because she's an exceptional human being, so I'm glad she's around. Um,
I get where you're coming from there because like I've been, not this show entirely, but like uh, other podcasts, other videos, things like that I've been doing for a long time since, 2006, podcasting 2013. And I have had people reach out and say, that through no intention of my own, you know, that that whatever they were getting from the content that I put together, made a difference in their lives when they were going through something difficult.
that's amazing.
And yeah, that is it's completely amazing, and it's in it it is in humbling. You're like, oh, geez.
It really is. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it makes you think a little bit about what you're putting together as well, which is
Hmm.
a reason to talk about this. But oh,
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that you're getting help and you're feeling somewhat better. It for me personally, like my if I'm depressed, it's entirely situational. However, if I'm anxious, it could come out of nowhere. I mean, it could be it could be something specific, or it could be just like, oh, I'm just anxious today. Like I had too many cups of coffee, except that I didn't have too many cups of coffee, right?
Yeah.
Um, and
Oh, caffeine. It'll be the
y-
death of us all, I swear.
yeah, no kidding. But it is heartening to see more guys talk about it online. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that there are some guys that that can cry in public, and
Mhm.
some of that is a little bit like some combination of personality and genetics. And other guys cry on the inside,
Yeah,
and you have to reach out harder to them because you don't really know where
right.
they're cloudy in their eyes. So you don't there's not they're opaque, and
Yeah,
they're not
yeah,
transparent at all.
right.
But I think everybody hurts,
Yes.
and everybody goes through stuff, and you never know how you're going to strike somebody's chords, as it were.
It's so true. It's so true. You have no idea what impact you make on other people. And that's the most profound thing to me is I through it all, I didn't think I was anyone special. And if you're the reason why someone made it through a really hard time, that is the biggest compliment that you could ever get in your life. So
And I mean, you don't have to have like deep knowledge of my background to know that I've had a camera in my hand a bunch of time, and I've shot things where there were essentially like people were using their emotions in a more performative way for the camera.
yeah,
And then there are the people who are very clearly emotionally affected by stuff.
sure. Yeah.
And I have the all the respect in the world for somebody who gets caught up in an emotion. They're okay with sharing it, and online, on in social media or whatever, and it doesn't feel like they're trying to manipulate you in some way or sell you something other than just like pushing your empathy button.
Right. Right.
It sort of brings me back around to politics a little bit too. That we have seen over the last year or so a whole lot more of the confluence of it's been going on for a while, like several years on the right, where there's a confluence of right wing politics and fitness. And this last year or so, you've seen that grow on the left, and it really some of these people have like a tremendous insight to to politics and to motivations and whatever,
Hmm.
and they do not have jobs that would let you believe that they had like got that got that information or that insight through their work, or that or education or anything else. They just happen to be just astute observers of politics and have empathy. Um, and I find that pretty heartening, to be honest with you. And I this is that's something I recognize in you and your online persona. And I think I want to talk to more of those people if I can, if I have if I have enough influence to make that happen.
Oh, I would love for you to. I think it's amazing, and you're just a good person, and I appreciate the energy that you bring, and you're just it's interesting because you're very introspective, you're very intelligent, and you're a big guy, but you're quiet, in your own ways, like you're quiet meaning you don't have to be. the center of attention, you know. But you'll certainly stand up for what's right and talk to people about certain things and what's necessary. But I just like that balance. You know, there's some people that just uh, want to make a statement because they want to be the biggest thing since sliced bread, and I just appreciate your approach. That you're just there to have really truly meaningful conversation, and if someone connects with it, that's fantastic.
I very much appreciate you saying that. That's
Hmm.
very nice. It yeah, it's it, we live in a time when it's difficult to know exactly how much of your political expression you should put online. And I just, but we're also living in a time where like people have to say stuff.
Right, and you know that's unfortunate too because you know I've had a few people say, "Hey, listen, you know," especially when I had a much bigger account on Twitter. They're like, "Hey, man, you know, you know, you if you're trying to grow this business or whatever, like, you really need to tone down the rhetoric." And I was like, you know, I I can't,
Yeah,
you
but
know, I
what if I
can't.
don't?
Yeah, I don't even I just can't. I think it'd be physically and emotionally impossible for me to quit that right now because I feel, Jim, such incredible rage and passion and a level of activism within me that
Mm.
I have never felt before. When I'm watching a mother of three get shot in the head when she was tried to drive away, or an ICU nurse that was you know highly decorated in his field, you know, get executed in the middle of the street, and you know it was interesting because when President Obama when he ran in was it 2008, um, I couldn't believe how people were treating him. I couldn't believe it. And I had never even voted prior to that, and I stayed out of politics for the most part.
Mm.
And I could not believe that this man, this good man, I mean, you know, whatever side of the aisle that you're on, I think we could all agree that Barack Obama is a good man. He's not compromised in any way. He, you know, this is a very low bar, but he certainly wasn't ever in the Epstein files.
No.
You know, things like that. So like you know, for them to attack him the way that they did was abhorrent, and it was awful to watch, and that really brought me in. So I credit Barack Obama with getting me more politically motivated and involved. Um, and then of course you know of all people you know I can't believe who's running the country right now, but it's you know here we are. But that of course really exacerbates my level of passion for this particular uh, situation.
It
So
doesn't help with depression either. There are a lot of people who are more or struggling more right
right,
now than they would be if the political climate was different.
it's true.
A lot of it, I think, a lot of it revolves around your sense of right and wrong, your basic morality. You know, if something strikes you as being wrong and immoral, and you know whether or not it's illegal, but especially if it's illegal, that you know if it is it negates somebody's humanity.
Yeah.
For we go back to punching down, you know,
Hmm.
to me those are not political opinions. That's basic morality. That's right or wrong,
Agreed.
and there isn't any real justification for things that are doing things that are just wrong. You
Right.
know, I mean that doing the wrong thing for the right reason is not a thing that exists. That's wish casting out into the universe. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And to not be able to recognize basic human decency
Right.
is a scary position for a country, for a government, for a people to be in. And
Absolutely. Jim, I got to say, like, if we had to boil it down to its pure essence and take away politics out of both parties, if that was possible, kind of put it through a filter, a paper filter, it would literally be boiled down to this huge group that has empathy and this huge group that is devoid of it. I mean that's really what it is, like if people aren't looking at this person and saying, "Hey, she got shot in the head and she was unarmed," you know, and instead of going, "She deserved it," and then make funny videos, or what they believe is funny, like comical videos, depicting it and blah blah blah. Like, who raised you? Like what kind of world are we living in that it's not just punching down. This is abhorrent behavior. You know, making fun of people that and then of course, our government that isn't providing any type of recourse for any of these families that have been hurt by some of these actions. We just have to deal with it. Which is authoritarianism. It's fascism. In its purest forms. So I, I just think that that's what's missing between one party and the other is just the empathy button. It's really insane to me that we're here and we're making fun of people for getting hurt.
yeah,
So
no, I agree with you on that point. Um, just because I have another appointment. I have an eye
gosh,
appointment. I have an eye appointment in a little bit. So I just want to wrap this up and like leave the door open to talk again in the future. And obviously you can hit me up anytime about anything, and we don't
thank
have
you.
to record it and nobody else has to
Likewise.
see it. Good, good, good. So where can people find you, Derek?
You can find me at metalfitnessco.com. So METTLE fitnessco.com. Would love to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on.
It is truly my pleasure and honor. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to do this again with you.
For sure. And for the rest of you who are listening, I'll be back in a couple weeks with the, I think, 499 and 500 episodes. Talk to you then. Find where my cursor is so I can hit the stop button. There it is.